Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we're the Quantum Mechanics. We're the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between. Weather-wise, we do the odd weather update. It's definitely kelpie weather, water cryptid weather, and also there's a kind of wind blowing that would be good to carry a banshee's howl, I think.
It is quite... we had a semi-paranormal experience last night where I live. We had a single clap of thunder and lightning at about 2:50 in the morning that sent everything shaking. You know, I got woken up. I didn't hear the thunder, apparently. It was huge, but it sent all the car alarms off. And it was just one single strike.
Wow. Okay. That is weird. Well, the other thing that I want to mention before we get into the episode, a couple of weeks ago, you did that episode on the Hopi people and potentially their liaisons or their interactions with ant people.
Yes, the warnings of the ant people.
Yeah, which we kind of concluded could have been an ancient civilization or an alien race. We posted some of the cave paintings that the Hopi did on social media and people had a look at it. And our zoological expert, or correspondent, as we're calling him, Luke, had a listen to the episode, loved it, but he did come back with a couple of things. He took a little bit of umbrage at our comments about ants not being good at food storage.
Oh.
He said they're very good at food storage.
Right, okay. With Tupperware or...?
I don't think it involves Tupperware.
Okay.
But then he gave me another amazing fact, that ants, if they've got ill youngsters, I don't know what young ants are called, antlings, let's call them, they...
Stop me if I get too technical.
Yeah. They create antibiotics.
Do they?
Which they give to the young to help cure them.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
But on the cave paintings, the Hopi paintings, I don't know if you remember, Ben, but there's one that's got this like ant person who's pointing at a kind of spiral design.
Yes.
And he said when he saw that, it reminded him, I can't remember how he described it, but it was something like ants can get themselves into a death cycle, which it's based on the pheromones, but a group of them start circling and it creates more pheromones. And pheromones is right. Yeah, that's the smelly ones. Yes. Yeah. It creates more pheromones and the ants just keep circling and circling. And the only way they can break out of the spiral is if they kind of accidentally go off course and lose the pheromones, or they just keep circling until they die.
That could have been a depiction of that.
That's what he thought. It might have been a depiction of their kind of death cycle. Which again, if you were a Hopi and you saw a group of ants doing that until the point of death, it would fascinate you, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah. So I thought some interesting facts. We'll definitely get Luke on the Patreon at some point to do a little ant episode. Nothing paranormal, but just every time I speak to him, he just gives me another amazing fact about ants. So it'd be good to bring it all together. And also we're still doing exclusive content on the Patreon. We're doing our Extra Scoop, which is a Patreon exclusive, which is after we've recorded. We have kind of coming in about 20, 25-minute chat about the episode, what we're working on. So if you're interested in checking that out and want more quantum mechanics, go to patreon.com/TQM pod. And also you help us support the podcast as well.
A very, very wise move.
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Makes a great gift.
Yeah, good birthday gift.
Yeah, a last-minute present. Maybe for a small child.
Yeah. Oh, or get someone it for Halloween, a Halloween present. We should do more Halloween presents.
presents.
It's a treat rather than a trick.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, staying on the theme of small things,
yes,
as we kind of have been, this week I'm looking at very small UFOs. I was going to say alien objects, but actually it's UFOs.
I'm really excited about this.
This is what started it. Alien mothership lurking in our solar system could be watching us with tiny probes, Pentagon official suggests. From Live Science. Quite a lot of stuff comes from Live Science, sort of jumping off points. A draft paper by a Harvard scientist and the head of the Pentagon's UFO office has raised the idea that an alien mothership could be in the solar system, sending out tiny probes dubbed dandelion seeds to explore the planets within.
Oh, that's interesting.
The two investigators said that it is feasible an extraterrestrial spaceship could be in our galactic neighbourhood, exploring the region by means of these dandelion seeds, which would be small spacecraft, that can gather and send back information similar to the way that we send out spacecraft to explore other planets. We've sort of spoken about this idea before.
Yeah, it's almost those nano probes, which are very small, or I'm thinking almost like a space drone.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, really, yeah. It all comes together in a paper called Physical Constraints on Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon.
Like that's bordering on one of the better academic ones, but they're trying to bridge both sides.
They're bridging
aren't they?
Both sides.
Yeah.
And it was mainly the inspiration for writing that paper came from the Oumuamua.
Okay.
No, that's not right. Oumuamua.
Yes.
There's no R's in there. From the Oumuamua incident, where this obviously large cigar-shaped rock came from nowhere and disappeared again, and there was a lot of speculation.
Wasn't it, if I remember that rightly, we did cover it. I think I covered it. There's something about its trajectory changed, wasn't it? And that's what got
right.
everybody excited. Why would a cigar-shaped comet or meteorite change direction like that? Yeah.
Well, 6 months before Oumuamua approached the Earth, or approached, our purview, a small interstellar meteor, which measured about 3 feet, smashed into the Earth, and this meteor is called IM2, was not related to Oumuamua, but it got Avi Loeb thinking, and when Avi Loeb starts thinking, exciting things usually come in life science.
You know it.
The coincidence inspired him to consider the possibility that an artificial interstellar object could potentially be a parent craft that releases many small probes during its close passage to Earth, an operational construct not too dissimilar to NASA's missions, as we said.
Yeah.
In this draft paper, Loeb and a guy called Kirkpatrick looked at unidentified anomalous phenomena, obviously UFOs, and looked at them in relation to known physics. And the authors suggest that the dandelion seed probe idea could be the perfect way for little drones, for want of a better word, to be sent to Earth, but would be undetected by astronomers, as they would likely be too small to reflect enough sunlight to survey via telescope.
And radar, I guess.
And radar, yeah. With a large surface to mass ratio, similar to a parachute, technological dandelion seeds could slow down in the Earth's atmosphere to avoid burn-up and then pursue their objectives wherever they land. But, he says, aliens that want to explore the rocky planets with an atmosphere in the solar system, this would be the perfect way of doing it, but it's possible that the alien civilization that invented it might be long dead.
Okay, so that kind of ties into the nano thing that we did before. They've sent these things out to explore the universe. I think it was reproducing nanos, wasn't it? But they're on autopilot, and they wouldn't know whether the civilization back home still existed or not.
That's right. Yeah. It might be self-replicating AI.
Yeah.
So he does say that, because I didn't realise this, most stars in the galaxy formed billions of years before our sun. Of course, that makes sense, really. So a habitable planet with intelligent life could have been sending out these probes long before Earth formed.
Yeah.
That has now passed, and we're seeing this weird sort of, I guess, the ghost ships in a way. They, what they're doing has long since ceased to be a project.
Yeah. And that was the same with the Oumuamua, wasn't it? That was theories around that. It was a long ancient probe. So they've not made a connection with this smaller one that you said came to Earth, but you're saying it was around the time of Oumuamua?
It was a couple of months before, but we will come back to it.
All right.
We will come back to it.
All right.
But I thought it'd be fun to have a look at other UFOs which are smaller than we imagine, because a lot of the time people report these things that they say are as big as an aircraft carrier, as big as a football field.
Like Phoenix Lights and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But even the smaller ones are, comparable to manned aircraft that we have in size, aren't they? You don't hear of stuff that's smaller.
You're about to.
Cool.
This one isn't This isn't the smallest at all, but it's probably one of my favourite. And this one's quite well known. But if you haven't heard of Utsuro Bun, it's Japanese for hollow boat. What I've said is probably Japanese for, I don't know, table or something, because I don't know how to speak it. But hollow boat, and some consider this to be a case of the oldest recorded interface of humans and extraterrestrials. And it's a really strange account of a beautiful woman's arrival on the coast of Hitachi province in Japan's east at the beginning of the 19th century. It's recorded in 3 different texts, and I've got the titles of those texts, but they're also in Japanese. So they're called The Stories of the Garden of Rabbits, which was published in 1825. Another one called Diaries and Stories of Castaways in 1835, and one called Peach Powder. I don't know why it's called Peach Powder. Was written in 1844.
I'd love to know if they were doing that today, in our sensationalist media. They'd be complete, because it's not going, that's going to be a story about a UFO, is it? It'll be miniature alien encounter.
That's right, yes. Woman from other worlds. Well, the point is, all 3 of those papers have pretty much the identical story. On February 22nd, 1803, a group of fishermen, it's so often fishermen, even if it's not a boat sort of UFO, it's always fishermen.
Which makes sense, 70% of the planet is water.
Well, that's true. A group of fishermen from the Hitachi region sighted a boat about 3.3 metres high, 5.4 metres wide. It's about 3.3. Yeah, I mean. And it was found floating near the shore. The small boat was a kind of hollow capsule in the shape of an incense burner. Made of wood, it was covered on the bottom with copper plates which protected the ship from steep rocks along the coast. It had hard glass windows that were held in place by wooden strips fixed with resin. And the fishermen decided to take the ship ashore to investigate. Inside, written on the walls, they found inscriptions in an unknown language. There was also water, food, bedding, carpets, litres of water, foods including meat and some sort of bread, and of course this woman that they found. She was said to be strange and beautiful, about 18 or 20 years old. I love that. 19? No, 18 or 20. Not 19, definitely not 19. She stood 1.5 metres tall, with pale skin and red hair all over her face and her... sorry, not all over her face, but it fell down her face. And she also had red eyebrows as well. And in her hair, she had white extensions that appeared to be made of finely cut fabric. She wore long garments made of an unknown fabric, and in her hand, she held a light-coloured box of about 23 centimetres in length. The fisherman, impressed, tried to communicate with her, but the girl spoke a language that was not Japanese and behaved in a very strange way. She refused to let anyone touch the small box and guarded it with her life.
You sure they weren't mistaking her for Mick Hucknall?
Oh gosh, could you imagine a spaceship and the whole race is Mick Hucknall's? They've got a civilization based on the albums of Simply Red. Settlers from around the region made all sorts of assumptions about the woman's origin. Some suspected she was the queen of a distant country and, accused of adultery, had exiled. Some claimed that the little box might even contain the head of her lover. Frightened by the strangeness of the situation and unable to communicate with her, the fishermen decided to put her back in the ship and return it to the sea.
I love that leaping to that assumption. We found this kind of strange, almost alien woman in a small capsule on the beach. She's obviously been exiled for adultery.
That's the reason. Yeah. That's the reason. What's she got in that box? Probably a head.
It's her lover's head.
What else could it be? Well, maybe she really likes chocolate and it's full of chocolate.
Yeah.
It's such an odd story.
Yeah.
And there is no more information than that. There are some pictures of it. There's some pictures.
Really? What, photographs?
No. Drawings. They're sort of just taken from those reports, and they're sort of an imagination of what it looks like.
And do they look alien?
Yeah, it looks like a floating UFO.
Right, okay.
But I don't think you'd come to Earth in something with wood and resin.
That's what I was thinking, with a nice bit of meat and a bit of bread, and yeah.
It seems unlikely, doesn't it?
Well, unless they're misinterpreting what they're seeing. But yeah, it was quite specific. Wood and copper, did you say?
Yes, and glass.
There is a fundamental problem with wood, I would imagine, in entering Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, the heat problem.
Yeah.
And also the trapping atmosphere to breathe problem.
Well, unless it's back to this kind of, we talked about this technology just being ahead of the time, and at least it's, maybe it's not wood, it's almost a camouflage to fit in, but yeah. It's
yes, they could have been glamoured.
But she was alive, was she?
Oh, yes, she was very much alive.
No,
Yes,
no detail about what happened to her in the end. She
just got back in the ship.
Oh, and went.
Yeah, they fed her.
Yeah.
And tried to communicate, and when basically they said, well, we don't know what to do, she just got back in and they pushed her away. So, off you go.
If it was Mick Hucknall, he probably sung a song and they went, go on, go, just leave.
Yeah, we'll have none of that around here.
Back at that time, what was it, just at the turn of the century, into the 1900s?
Yeah.
Mick Hucknall would have definitely had to be holding back the years.
Mind you, because she had nothing to barter with, money was too tight to mention.
Oh, love it.
Maybe what she had in her box was some night nurse.
Why not? Is that Simply Red song?
It is.
Okay.
Night nurse. That's not how he sings it.
Oh, it's probably a cover of the, okay.
Oh, the night nurse advert.
No, the reggae song.
I think they did. Oh, yeah, of course. I think they did have it on the night nurse advert for a while.
Yes, yeah, that was Gregory Isaac.
Gregory Isaac, oh.
The great Gregory Isaac, yeah, night nurse. Yeah.
Well, she certainly doesn't want to be covering that.
I should have got it because of the lyric, there's a patient by the name of Gregory. That's how the song goes.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Only you alone can lift this a curse, I think. Something like that. Anyway, we've digressed quite a lot there, haven't we?
We have. Anyway, here's for a really small UFO. An Irishman named Thomas J. Hutchinson swore to police that he captured a flaming red flying saucer, but it got away. There were several unusual features, including red marks and stripes on an egg-shaped object reminiscent of something that was reported by Lonnie Zamora in 1964 in Socorro. Okay. Remember how we spoke about that egg-shaped craft with like little markings on it?
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently, this is how it was described.
Sorry, in the Zamora case, because that's just gone from my mind. Was that additional to the main craft?
No. So
he was saying the main craft looked like that.
The main craft looked like this, but this Irish guy, he captured a small version of it.
Interesting.
So I love the way the newspaper reports on this. Irishman loses grip. Flying saucer is slippery.
What year was this?
This is 1976.
Okay.
In Northern Ireland, an Irishman had difficulty holding it, he explained. He said the incident, one of the most intriguing in the County Derry region, and the most intriguing the cops had come across, happened this way. He was sitting at home with his wife Maud about noon on Friday when the object dropped from the clouds and an otherwise dry day in the middle of and landed in the middle of a bog 300 yards from his front door. Him and his wife slushed across the bog and found the object lying motionless, egg-shaped, about 2 foot high and 18 inches in diameter. It was bright red, said Hutchinson, with 2 dark red marks at either end and 3 dark red stripes. It had a saucer-shaped base. The Hutchinsons watched the gadget for a few moments and then they kicked it over, but it returned to its original position. When he got down on his hands and knees to examine the baffling object more closely, it started to spin. He put a hammer lock on the saucer with his. He's basically doing WWF on this saucer.
Hold on. So he took a hammer lock with him?
No. That's the name of the.
Oh, I thought you meant like the one you have in cars.
No.
You meant
Yeah.
like a headlock. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was pretty powerful. The only place for such a wicked-looking thing as this was the police station, and I started to carry it there. But on the way to Loop, which is obviously just down the road, Hutchinson Hutchinson fell through a hedge and and lost his grip on the saucer.
It's quite a lot of detail. I mean, it is because you do go, him and his wife have had a few too many sherries in the afternoon. But, if you're going to make it up, we travelled across a bog to get it. I like that detail of it. We kicked it over and then it righted itself. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. A lot of detail for something you're going to make up.
But
I guess you can argue that either way, can't you?
You can. But in the end, he just disappears up into the sky.
So it flies off again.
It flies off,
yeah,
leaving him sort of in the bush, in the hedge.
And also to go, I'm going to go to the police and tell them about this, because you must be going, they're never going to believe me, right?
Also I had it in a headlock, officer, but threw me to the ground.
Yeah.
Also, though, in April 1974, this is a much more famous case, but it reminded me of it's similar to this case, and that is, of course, 3 members of the Betts family, Jerry, Antoine, and their oldest son, Terry, who are walking in the woods around their property in Jacksonville, Fort George Island, terrified something that would impact their lives for years, this strange metallic sphere about the size of a bowling ball. Thinking it odd enough to make a good souvenir, Terry, who's 21-year-old med student, brings the ball home. Do you know this story?
No.
The Bettses didn't think much about the orb until one day when Terry started strumming his guitar near it. I love the way, like that's a thing. Is like, let's go and play guitar. I don't think he was playing guitar at the ball.
Yeah.
According to Jerry, who became the family spokesman on the sphere-related matters, something strange happened. The ball started humming back. Soon it started displaying other unusual properties. It would roll around, seemingly of its own volition, changing directions and halting abruptly. It even vibrated and emitted a high-pitched sound that would send dogs whining and covering their ears. There's a picture right here I can show you.
Oh, yeah, let's have a look. Oh, wow. It looks like a metallic, shiny cannonball.
I was going to say a cannonball.
Size,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So shortly, the Betts sphere was also called the Mystery Sphere, and it was also, in some newspapers, called the Oddball. Ron Kivett, the host of a local radio station show on the paranormal, was one of the first to inspect it. Kivett, who also has a place in local lore as one of the writers of a locally produced cult monster movie, Zat, random.
Don't know that.
No. Confirmed the Betts' family claims that the sphere moved and behaved strangely.
I do remember this story now you mention it. Now the details coming out. Yeah.
They were all basically convinced that this orb was of extraterrestrial origin, a device created by some cosmic intelligence for an opaque purpose. By mid-April of that year, the Betts sphere had also drawn the attention of the news. It's not clear who contacted who, but the Jacksonville local papers and the Florida Times began covering the sphere and interviewing Jerry about it. According to Lindsay Kilbride, a reporter for the Jackson's partner WJCT, why American radio stations? I'm going to have to find this out one day, why they're all called these.
I remember when I was in America, I did ask somebody and they did tell me, but I can't remember what it is. But there is a reason for it. Yeah, WG, blah, blah.
Yeah, out of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Around that time, this reporter says UFOs were really popular, and that is why it captured the attention and imagination of everybody.
So if we backtrack a bit, the kid finds it, yeah?
The son, he's not a kid, he's 21.
Okay, the son, he's 21. It's doing weird things. They take it to somebody else who sees it do weird things?
Yep.
What happens to it next?
Well, with curiosity at fever pitch, the US Navy wanted to take a look at it. So Jerry wrote up a contract that gave the Navy 2 weeks to inspect the orb at Naval Station Mayport and committed them to returning it if it turned out to not be government property.
So I guess it seems a bit odd putting a 2-week limit, but I guess it's like he doesn't want them holding on to it for years, so it does make sense. Yeah, okay, that's clever.
In contemporary news reports, the Navy spokesman stated that they'd found only that the ball was stainless steel, was not their property, and while they couldn't determine what it was for, it was certainly constructed on Earth. The Navy suggested that its tendency to move around was due to a small triangular chip on the surface that threw off its otherwise perfect balance, and the fact that the Betts' floors were uneven sort of exacerbated this issue.
Right.
But of course, they would say that. That is what the Betses said.
And has there been any research into, let's imagine it's an earthbound object, what it could have been created for? Any theories on that?
There are. I'm coming to those.
Okay.
Because then the National Enquirer had a bit of a shot at this, and they convened a panel of 5 UFO investigators in New Orleans. Despite the disreputable sponsor, that each member was a scientist or an engineer in their own right, and amongst them was J. Allen Hynek.
Ah.
Yes. The Enquirer flew Terry Betts and the sphere out so it could be investigated by the panel. Evidently, Hynek and his colleagues were unimpressed with the ball and agreed with the Navy that it was man-made. These conclusions did nothing, though, to tamp down the interest in the sphere. And eventually the Betts family had had enough. A year and a half after the orb became national news, the family simply stopped talking about the sphere. Jerry said, I've recorded interviews with people all the time, and this is just extremely overwhelming for the family. I'm getting calls 24 hours a day, and the phone is just constantly ringing. And also people are showing up at the house. Basically, it's changed our lives, and we don't want it anymore. With the Bettses no longer talking sphere-related inquiries, it was never definitively proven what the thing was or how it had gotten to Fort George Island. But there are some thoughts on it. So some people think that it is part of there's a way of doing some engineering where you use these balls for basically clearing out pipelines.
Okay. What, you almost roll them down or fire them down?
Yeah, you fire them down. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So like a cannonball.
Like a cannonball, yes. Others think that it was part of a joint system, so it's literally a ball joint for something.
For what though? That's quite big.
It doesn't stop conspiracy theories though. I had a quick look over at the. It has its own subreddit. This ball. Some of the common theories are the government opened it and stole the fillings.
Okay.
It's some sort of drone. This is what orbs look like when they're not lit up. I've seen the exact same thing pulled through big drainage pipes to declog them. There you go. There's the one.
I bet the subreddit deleted that one.
Yeah, but there's loads of people saying that. But it's interesting that they just stopped talking and everyone gave up, basically.
Yeah. I have heard that story before. It's one of those that if it is a fake story or even the family misidentified it, it's amazing how something as simple as that can spiral into a massive story, isn't it? All this is reminding me a bit of... Do you remember I did that episode? It was on a book. The book is called Alien Nightmares, and it was about a woman who started to believe that her weird UFO-based nightmares were actually abduction memories.
Yes.
And while you were talking, it reminded me, I just pulled up the book on my phone, because she talked about mini UFOs. Now, admittedly, these are all her dreams. She believes they're abduction stories. But she describes a swarm of UFOs after an earthquake. Small UFOs were darting all around, low to the ground, like a swarm of bees buzzing around my head. The sidewall buckled in several places, and it was thrust upwards by an earthquake. While I do not recall any other details of the dream, it did take place on my childhood street and the house where 2 UFOs landed in my backyard and turned the very air into a milky silver colour. But it reminded me, she described these mini UFOs just buzzing around her head, which made me think of how you started this with those kind of almost, like we talked about the nanoprobes and stuff like that. It's interesting that that's a theme that's come out of her, because you don't hear about it often as a thing, do you?
Not at all, no, that is interesting. Yeah, and it's also not it's not something that you think about in the media very much either.
Yeah.
It's, there is that film, Batteries Not Included. But
there is. Oh, sorry, I found another little bit. She says, this is interesting for what you're saying. She said, then I saw a UFO on the ground. It was very small, about 1 foot in diameter. It was a stereotypical saucer shape with a clear dome.
That is very Batteries Not Included.
Yeah.
You remember you were asking about the meteorite?
Yeah.
Ever since that peculiar meteorite was observed plummeting towards Earth, astrophysicist Avi Loeb became committed to uncovering its true nature, investigating whether it was an alien artifact from another world that has made its way all the way to the Pacific. And I found this paper, which was published in Earth.com, talking about this mission. Undertaken in June near Papua New Guinea, this is last year, they recovered what they believe are pieces of this enigmatic crash lander.
Right.
On Tuesday, Loeb communicated to the media that the preliminary investigation suggested that the tiny metal pieces might be alien artifacts originating from beyond our solar system. While it remains inconclusive whether these metallic spheres are artificial or natural in origin, Loeb is steadfast in his belief that these samples are unlike any metal alloy known to us. He says this is a historic discovery because it represents the first time that humans have put their hands on materials from a large object that arrived on Earth from outside our solar system. With financial backing amounting to $1.5 million, they set sail on the Silver Star, that's their ship, obviously, towards Papua New Guinea in order to retrieve fragments of this unique meteorite, IM-1, that was the one we spoke about earlier, which entered the atmosphere in 2014. This event went under the radar until 2019, when Loeb stumbled across data captured by a US government census. The genuine origin of the meteor, however, was only publicly recognised in 2022 by experts from US Space Command who confirmed that it was from another solar system.
Yeah.
Not long after Space Command's announcement, Loeb and his team were conducting an extensive search off Manus Island coast using a magnet-laden sled on their own ship to probe the ocean floor. They managed to collect over 700 microscopic spheres detectable only under a microscope. This is historic, says Hoskins, so that's another person who's on the ship. Recent evaluations have disclosed that some of these retrieved spheres boast a unique element composition unparalleled in our solar system, dubbed the B-La-Lu composition due to its beryllium, lanthanum, and uranium content. God, is that how you say it? Lanthanum?
Lanthanum it is now. Or you've just invented a new one.
The alloy is distinct from any known on Earth or its neighbouring planets. The findings demonstrate this success of the first exploratory expedition and pave the way for a second expedition to seek more data. And to bring us right up to date from the 6th of February this year, reported in the Daily Mail, a Harvard physicist has revealed that 10% of the fragments recovered from the Pacific Ocean contain alien elements not seen in our solar system. Avi Loeb told DailyMail.com that his team had completed their analysis of 800 spherules, finding a new class of differentiated elemental composition labelled B-Lau, not coal ash, as had been claimed by some people. Now, whether it is manufactured or not is still up for debate.
Right, but it could be natural, right?
It could be natural, but because they're spheres, it's possible that they are remnants of an alien civilization.
I just maybe this is my limited understanding of science and the periodic table. Are they saying these are things that are not in the periodic table, but or it's just the combination of them has not been seen before?
It is the combination of them this alloy has not been seen before.
So, okay, just stick with my fuzzy logic. How do you then know they've come from outside the solar system? Because surely they would only be in our periodic table if we knew they existed.
We know that they exist, but we've never seen them in this combination before. They can't, right. For whatever reason, they can't exist like this in our solar system.
Right, okay. Look, because the one thing I was thinking about, there's two routes here. You can go down the kind of grandiose, it is a intelligent alien civilization, or it is examples of their craft. I wonder, I was thinking about the big ball cannonball thing that we were talking about.
Yeah, the Bet Sphere.
Is there, there's a lot of space junk up there that we've stuck up there, and satellites, and they use weird elements and stuff like that. So there's a bit of me thinking, could some of these things could be, part of a Chinese spy satellite that's, descended to Earth, or even wider, rather than there's anything behind it. It could be alien space junk, couldn't it?
Well, I think that's very much what they're saying. It could be alien space junk.
Yeah.
We know that this meteorite originated from beyond our solar system because it was tracked.
Yeah.
But what we don't know is what it is, whether it is artificial, whether it contains artificial elements or whether it itself is natural but has been influenced by some alien technology that is either incorporated into it or has been like traveling with it, or if it was collision or...
Well, yeah, because meteorites and comets, they do contain metal elements, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's strange that that it has these spheres of it, and it might be that they occur naturally. I'm not saying, like, even Avi Loeb is like, it might be just natural, but it's also possible that it's artificial.
Yeah.
But that all of this is to say, that sort of brought us back to where we started, which is this idea of alien space probes that are too small to see isn't unusual. It's been thought of. Sometimes we see very small things. There is, of course, that wonderful thing, passage from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where an entire invasion force gets swallowed by a yawning dog. Because they don't understand the sizes on Earth.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hitchhikers, it's brilliant.
The idea that we could be being constantly viewed by something which is too small to see is slightly petrifying, but it takes us back to, like we've spoken about, alien viruses in the atmosphere, how that might, it could influence plagues, pandemics, epidemics. It could change the way that our whole makeup is made because of the external influence of viruses on our DNA. There's many things to look out for here, but I just think it was fun, and I don't think there's anything more fun than a man falling through a hedge with a UFO in a headlock.
Which is too hot to handle.
It's too hot to handle. And the fact that I like to think that maybe the aliens went, oh, you know what? We got put in a headlock last time. Let's make a really big one. And that's what Lonnie saw.
Unless this is all aliens just wanting to create, good social media fails, like Fail Army.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Alien Fail Army. Go on, stick one of the orbs down. Let's watch this guy try and hold it. Right, make it hot, make it move, pull him in the hedge.
That is perfect. Yeah. Oh, God. What's it? Impractical Jokers, where they do that remote control thing. Yeah.
It's like the alien version of Dom Jolly.
It is. Oh, Dom Jolly he would have loved that.
Yeah, he would have loved that. He should have done that.
Oh, maybe someone will tell him about this episode and it'll inspire him.
When you think of Batteries Not Included, the movie, the Spielberg movie, they are basically stereotypical UFOs, just small, aren't they? But I think what's interesting about the descriptions we've had today, apart from that dream one that I mentioned, they're not described as looking like a normal UFO. So it does tie into that concept of some kind of probe, doesn't it?
It does. I don't think that woman in Japan was a probe.
No.
I would like to know what that is about, though.
Yeah, because it's not even as a kind of bit of mythology, and we've done some of the yokai and various Japanese stories. There are bits of it that feel very Japanese folklore, but the actual kind of description of what's going on seems a little different to the stories I've seen, at least. I know I'm not an expert, but yeah.
Well, most people don't, there's no consensus, but most people that have a very sort of sober view on that case is that she probably was trying to escape some sort of persecution. Was maybe not anything to do with the lover, maybe something to do with the family disgrace, and what was in her box was money, and she was looking to start a new life.
And she was in some homemade boat.
Exactly right, yes.
Yeah. Come from one of the Japanese islands, maybe.
Yeah, and she was just like, I don't want to start a new life with these fishermen.
Yeah.
And the reason why the writing was not known, maybe they just weren't very good at writing. It's quite possible.
Yeah. Really good. There is something kind of cutesy, funny, ironic behind the miniature UFO stories, aren't there? But that idea of alien space junk, I think, is really interesting to me, because everyone goes Fermi paradox and how much time, but this stuff would have been traveling around, our galaxy could have been traveling around the galaxy for billions of years, right?
It could have been. It could have been, and that might be what technology looks like on another planet after a billion years. It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, Cannonball like.
Yeah. Tommy Cannon, Bobby Ball. More references. So I'm now obsessed with tiny paranormal things. So tiny ghosts
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I haven't found any. I found one compelling case. I need to find more. So if anyone wants to point me in the direction of tiny ghosts, I'd be much obliged.
Yeah, it was the follow-up to Toy Soldiers, wasn't it? Excellent. All right, well, next week, I don't want to talk too much about what I'm going to do next week because it's such a good story. I don't want to give anything away, but it was... I know I was going to do something on exorcism and a book I'm reading, but I'm still going through that. So I'm going to do something else next week. And it started with a bit of a musical earworm. So, yeah, I'm really excited about telling you this story. It's kind of known, but, yeah, it's well worth going over again if you have heard it. So, yeah, make sure you come back next week.
See you then. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?